Okay, see, I even have my reminder up to start the recording. Okay, so here we go. Start off just by taking a look at what our basically, I want to give you a better understanding overall of one, just in general, you know, how do leaders lead? What is that role of leadership? And that'll just be fairly brief, just a few thoughts on leadership. And then we'll get into a little bit more of the nitty gritty in terms of the official duties, so to speak, of the club president, the vice president, and the board of directors. And that's pretty much based on the Constitution and bylaws. What is it more or less mandated is probably not the right word, but what's expected in terms or what's laid out for us in the Constitution and bylaws. Want to spend some time about how you can get ready for your upcoming year. Incoming presidents, of course, you have about 2 months here to get ready. First vice presidents who are tuning in, you've got like a whole year to get ready. So I'm hoping you'll be able to use this background to help you be thinking throughout your year as to how you might get ready. And then we'll get into a little bit deeper some of the specific expectations of club presidents, not necessarily written out, but you know, what are some of the traditional roles and what do a lot of our clubs expect of their president? And then finally, some resources for you to further your knowledge as far as what's going, you know, what your responsibilities are. All right, so that's kind of the agenda for the night. So we're going to start with just a few thoughts about, I'm going to start with a few thoughts about leadership. And, you know, when I think about leadership, I think, you know, several things that come to mind. And one role of a leader is to provide guidance. And so as your club's president, you want to provide guidance to the club in terms of keeping the club on track throughout the year, making sure that things are getting done that are supposed to get done, that people are fulfilling their responsibilities. I guess one thing I want to emphasize with you is that just because you're the president, you're not the person who does everything, but you are the person who sees that things get done. All right. Everybody has their roles and responsibilities in the club. If your club is functioning well, you know, the people take charge of different projects. Your officers have different roles. You know, you're basically there to hold them accountable to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do. I also think about leadership or a leader as being a motivator too. And that motivation can take a lot of different forms. Sometimes it takes some prodding of your members to get them motivated to do something. Sometimes motivation's in the form of encouragement. Sometimes maybe you need to provide an incentive or reward for something. Sometimes you can use competition for motivation, as long as you keep it kind of friendly and good-natured. But you're kind of the motivator, the cheerleader for your club to keep things going. From time to time, you're going to find yourself being in the problem-solving role. So you're going to have to be the problem solver. If you're lucky, that problem, you're going to have some time. You won't have to like immediately solve the problem. You'll have some time to think about it and get some input. But of course, there's going to be other times where you might need to make a quick decision on the spot, just depending on the circumstance. All I can say there is, you know, kind of expect the unexpected, and then don't panic. You know, you'll get through it, and it'll be okay. You know, don't beat yourself up if you have to make a quick decision and things don't go as you plan. But like I say, expecting the unexpected. I know the year I was district governor, I thought I had things nicely laid out or whatever, and boom, right away, early in the year, we had a hurricane and we had a request from a club for assistance. And, you know, there were a bunch of things that were kind of easy to cause distraction, but, you know, you deal with it, and you just have to know that that's part of your leadership role is to help take on those roles or those problems as they come forth. And then a fourth thing that I think is a good characteristic of a leader is somebody who can build consensus within the group. And by building consensus, you know, I think that's kind of thinking about it's really best when the whole club is working together, when everybody's kind of rowing in the same direction, so to speak. That I think is the ultimate thing, and then that's when I think your club really progresses well. When you can build, make decisions that everybody can buy into and can support, then you're going to have a lot more harmonious club and avoid a lot of friction. Some of the ways that club leaders lead are by communicating a shared vision. And when I think about a shared vision, you know, I think about, again, this is the same idea of pulling in the same direction, where everybody kind of understands, here's where the club is going or what direction the club needs to take. And one question I like to kind of ask myself, and it can also be a good exercise for a club meeting at some point, is, you know, for your club members to talk about how do they see this club in 5 years? You know, what does the club look like 5 years from now? You know, does that club the same size? Are the same people holding office, or do we have new leaders coming on? Are we doing the same projects and the same fundraisers, or are we exploring new projects? Are we looking at where's that? What does that club look like 5 years from now? And if you can work with your club to get an idea of what they would at least like and hope that the club looks like 5 years from now, then you can work backwards and see, well, what actions can we take to get to that point? So, you know, if you don't have a vision, you might want to think about getting one. If your club already has a vision and is working towards it, you want to keep reminding people, here's what we're trying to do, here's where we're trying to go. So communicating the vision, both short-term and long-term, is important. You got to know where you're going. And that gets into then, you know, setting some goals. And goals are great, but, you know, in order for goals to be accomplished, you have to take some action. So I kind of always pair that with action planning too. What are we going to do to reach those goals? And I encourage you to set some for yourself for your year, and get your club to buy into some goals too, as to what you hope to accomplish during your year. Presidents also lead by providing opportunities for others to lead. All right. Again, you don't have to do all the work. In fact, your year as president, it should be pretty much just sitting back and making sure everything is moving in the right direction. Let other people step up and take those leadership opportunities, because whether it's a small leadership opportunity or a big project, that's building those skills that people are going to need to eventually take on, you know, officer roles within your club. You want to attend your members and encourage your members to attend leadership training. And there is a lot available both online, and our district is trying to offer a number of trainings. We have officer training going on all this month and into next month. But even for, you know, we even have the session for tail twisters. If you looked at the offering this year, Second Vice District Governor-elect Marty, he's going to be heading that one up. So, and I know that that's going to be a great training. And your tail twisters, they can be a very valuable resource in your club. But get your people to buy into some training, and just even looking online. And the resources, I'll show you some of those, how to access some of that training. Mentoring kind of goes along with providing that leadership opportunity. But the mentoring, you really want to make sure that you are passing the knowledge of your club and what has to be done in all aspects, whether it's getting ready for a service project, or getting ready, you know, one of your not legacy service projects. Help me out, somebody. What's LCI call the ones that you do every year?
Signature activities.
Signature, thank you. The signature service projects, especially those that are ongoing projects. Make sure people know how to do that, or your fundraising, the different aspects of your fundraisers. A lot of work has to be done up front, and all your members don't necessarily understand and appreciate what goes into getting ready so that when everybody shows up, things are set to go. That stuff needs to be communicated, and you can mentor people into those positions so that people don't get burned out by having to carry the load the whole time. That's where you have an opportunity to give everybody in your club an important role to fill. Every club member needs to feel like they're contributing in some way, shape, or form. Some people can give more than others. Some people have physical limitations, but there's always something somebody can do to contribute to the club. And that feeling of contributing really contributes to member satisfaction. What we find is, and you may or may not be aware of this, but membership in Lions Club, especially in the United States and in our district, is slowly dropping. And what we find over and over again is that if we could we lose as many members or more members to member dissatisfaction as we do to attrition through members passing away or something like that. So if we could put the brakes on losing members due to member dissatisfaction, we would start to see increases in our membership. So be very sensitive to that. Make sure that everybody's feeling included and like they're a part of the team. And of course, then setting the example for your members. And when you're asking people to do stuff, make sure you're not asking them to do something that you yourself wouldn't do. You want to be confident that that you're being reasonable in what you're requesting, so that people know what you're asking them to do would be is something that you yourself would do. So you're not trying to pass off a duty that nobody, that you wouldn't want to do. I talked about consensus. Building consensus is one of the things that a leader does. And I'm going to have to give my dad some credit here. He's the one who shared these ideas with me. He's been in a position where he's led several groups from his within his church to within his professional organizations and things like that. When he works with a group, or comes together with a group for the first time, he really promotes this idea of consensus rather than conflict, or bringing the group to a shared idea or what everybody can kind of support, as opposed to an up or down vote and having half the people vote yes and half the people vote no, or something like that, and then you really don't have the buy-in that you need. So in working towards consensus, he talks about in your discussions, making sure that you encourage members to be open, honest, candid, but then confidential is important too, because confidentiality within a trust, especially, I'm thinking like when you're having a board meeting, or if you're just having your officers together, you want people build that trust level so that people know if they say something in a small setting, that it's going to remain confidential within the for the purposes of those discussions. So those are important keys for the discussion. When you're having those discussions, you need to encourage people to own their own views. In other words, they shouldn't be afraid to say how they feel. They need to do so respectfully, but they should feel free about that aspect. They shouldn't be afraid to say what they feel, and they shouldn't also feel, nobody should be putting them down for expressing those views. So that kind of goes along with this, where the people in the group should be able to respectfully challenge another person's opinions, but not in a way that's offensive, but be respectfully challenged, have respectful disagreements. And then the converse with that is that people in the group need to also be willing to accept those challenges without being offended, right? So this is kind of establishing a culture within your group. This could apply to the whole club level. It might be some ground rules that you would want to establish, either working with your board or your officer team, but also within your whole club. I know many of us have smaller clubs and we kind of do everything as a whole club. So those are just some thoughts about how you can build a culture where you rule and govern by consensus, as opposed to having half the member winners and losers, so to speak, in your votes. All right, so those are just some thoughts about membership. I will take just a quick break here and see if anybody wanted to ask any questions or have any comments about that. Don't forget to unmute yourself if you want to make a comment or ask a question. Anybody? No? Okay, then we'll go on and plow through here. Start on the specific duties of the president. And again, these are going to be duties related to, or that are specified pretty much in the Constitution and bylaws. All right. So you're basically, as president, the chief executive officer. So you're going to be calling the meetings and presiding over the club and the board of directors and special meetings. I know most of your clubs meet on a regular basis. You have your schedule, so that's kind of already set there. But it's going to be your call if you need to, for some reason, postpone or cancel a meeting. Again, when and where to have special meetings of the club. Those are things that are up to you. So, and that is within your purview as president of the club to make those determinations. If your club has a formal committee structure, you're going to be responsible for appointing those chairpersons and the members of the committee. This is where you need to really know your members pretty well, because you know that somebody who's done the chicken barbecue for the last 24 years is, you want to make sure you don't hurt their feelings necessarily by just arbitrarily appointing somebody else to do that. You want to make sure that they are in agreement with that, or that maybe they can have a co-chair or something like that, so that again, passing on some of that knowledge, making sure you have a good mix of people on the committees, people who can work well together. But again, that's part of your responsibility to make sure that at least happens. Every club may have their own way of doing that, whether it's with signups or things like that. You know your club well enough. Your job is to make sure that gets done. We're going to talk about elections in a little bit, but part of your responsibility is to make sure that they are called and held at the appropriate times and in the appropriate manner. Actually, all those first three bullets we're going to cover in a little bit more detail later on. These last two, as far as attending cabinet and zone meetings and also reporting at the zone meetings, really want to encourage you to make sure that you know when those meetings are and that you attend those meetings. They're really important as far as facilitating the flow of communication from the district level to your club level, and also communicating the needs at your club level up to the district level, so the district can support your club in what it's trying to do, or meeting its needs, providing the kinds of training that you need and what your members are looking for as far as training, or ideas for membership growth, or ideas for service projects, ideas for fundraisers. When you step outside of your club and start to meet with members from other clubs, there's just a wealth of ideas out there. And it also tends to be motivational. At least in my experience, it has been. I get some ideas, and I can come back to my club with an idea that might work, or you hear something that's just like, oh yeah, we could give that a try. That would be that might work out really well for us. So it's just a good way to keep fresh. And again, take your vice president along. Your secretary is supposed to go to the zone meetings also. And so make sure that they're going with you. But take somebody along to a cabinet meeting just to get your club members exposed outside of their club. There's just so much out there to do. I do want to remind you that you are the chief executive officer, but you know your authority is not absolute. Our organization is structured as a democracy, not as a dictatorship. So even though you're seeing that things come from, your authority comes from the club by its vote, by the powers that are granted in the Constitution and bylaws, and also your club's board of directors. Understand that any decision that you make as president is not necessarily final. Your club board of directors can override a decision that you make and be in a position to, or be within their rights to do so if you've kind of overstepped your bounds for some reason. And so you need to respect that also, that's the case. So that's just the overview of the president's duties. Vice president duties are very much in line with what you traditionally think of as the vice president duties. As I say here, ideally, your vice president has been a member of the club and been around long enough to know the members of the club fairly well. I would recommend that hopefully your vice president has been with your club at least 5 years or more. I know that doesn't always happen. I see some smiles there already, you know, like, oh yeah, well, are you dreaming or what? But you know, it is not ideal for a second year member to be the president of the club or the first vice president. You know, it really helps to get established with the club and have led some of the projects, you know, a project or two, or done some other roles within the club that's given them exposure. And I'll get it. I think that as I come up here, there'll be some reasons there, but you know, as vice president, you want to take your year as vice president to learn and understand the president's role and duties better. You may have some committees that you're assigned to oversee. You want to help the committee chairs set their goals and be active with those committees that you're assigned to. I have here develop job descriptions for committees. You know, that's kind of on the ideal end of the spectrum to do that. But if your committees have some broad description as to what they're supposed to do and how they function, that's really helpful to get some stuff down in writing for continuity. And so you can hand that to a new chairperson. They know what's going on or what's expected of their committee. So help you kind of a mentoring role too, that a committee chair can learn to do meeting management with their smaller group. And again, that's kind of preparing them to hopefully maybe become a club officer. You're a resource person for those committee chairs. You're also ex officio member of the committees that you're assigned to. And if, depending on how you structure your club meetings and board meetings, you may be responsible to report the activities of the committees that you are assigned to oversee. So I guess the other thing I wanted to say there, as far as the vice president knowing the membership, you know, when we look at a little later on about assigning committees and things like that, you really have to know your members in order to not make a faux pas when assigning committee members or putting committee members together in committees that may not gel real well. So again, I would really encourage you, if at all possible, make sure you're not thrown into the vice presidency or presidency until you've been with the club for a while. And then of course your board of directors, that's your management committee, so to speak. So again, you're probably more or less aware of this from your time in the club, but your board of directors is made up of your club officers. Most of us have a lion tamer and a tail twister, but those are optional positions according to the Constitution and bylaws. You're supposed to have an LCIF coordinator, and that defaults to your immediate past president if you don't have somebody else designated for that. LCI will automatically assign that to your immediate past president. If you don't put somebody. Safety officer is one that you probably, I don't know, did anybody realize that a safety officer is a position, an elected position in our clubs, an optional one? I think this is a great opportunity for the clubs if you have the personnel to do it, and if you have somebody who has a background in safety and security aspects. This is a great way to involve somebody, and that person can really be helpful, I think, in looking at, especially if you have like a facility that your club owns or uses. I know our club, we have a restaurant at the South Mountain Fairgrounds that we run. If somebody who has an eye for potential safety hazards, or even, when you are doing events, whatever, and planning events, that safety officer might be able to see in the setup and how you have things arranged where there might be a potential safety hazard. So I think that's a great position to have. The other thing a safety officer could do is they could be a contact person between for your local emergency management coordinator with your club, because Lions has some resources available that if your community had an emergency situation or some kind of disaster, say flooding or tornado, our clubs can go in and we can request relief money from our Lions Club International Foundation, and so that could be part of the role of your safety officer, is to be that liaison. I was also thinking about our Lions as volunteers in an emergency situation. What kinds of roles might they play? Your safety officer and your emergency management coordinator could coordinate that aspect of how you might use Lion volunteers in an emergency situation. I really thought about that with this pandemic. I don't know about how many of you have had your vaccination shots, but I went to a mass vaccination center and there were a ton of volunteers there. I was thinking, wow, wouldn't it have been nice if those volunteers all had Lions shirts on, or some of them had Lions shirts and Lions vests? It would have been really neat if we could have been a little better management, that we could have offered Lion volunteers to help with in those vaccinations. Great visibility for us. But, so those are kinds of possibilities that might be available there through a safety officer. The branch president does not apply to, I don't think, any of your clubs. I'm not aware of any of our clubs that have a branch at this point, but that is something that you might be hearing about throughout this coming year, and the district's effort to establish some branch clubs as sort of seed clubs, or seeds that would grow into a regular full Lions club at some point. And then most of you have directors who are elected, and you may or may not have specific roles for those elected directors and or chairpersons. So basically, these are all elected positions. People that you elect to officers are
question.
Board of directors. Yeah, go ahead.
Your little note down there says all of these positions are elected officers. An elected officer is automatically a board member. According to Lions International, you can, like the lion tamer and tail twister, we have those as appointed for ours because they're optional in our new constitution and bylaws. So that makes them officers, but not elected officers if they're appointed by the president. So I have a question on
that. Is that Ray that was talking?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. I don't see everybody up here. It didn't pop up, but yeah. I can't say definitively on that, Ray. Because that's an optional position, I would assume that you're right. They would not necessarily have to be members of the board of directors. I think your board of directors should probably be elected officials, but
correct. What the new international constitution bylaws had in it was these were positions that could be either or. So when we rewrote our constitution and bylaws this year, we made them presidential appointed, and the board can appoint too if they feel that the president doesn't, needs to appoint and hasn't. But that makes them officers, not elected officers. In other words, they're not voting board members for us.
Okay. All right. Yeah, sounds to me like that makes sense. So, anybody else? Okay. Now, just to clarify, as far as officers, officers are a subgroup of the board of directors. The officers themselves are your president, your immediate past president, your vice president, secretary, treasurer, and then these last three, a service chairperson, a marketing chairperson, and a membership chairperson. They're specified there as being officers, but they we know we've got small clubs and we don't necessarily have enough people to fill all these roles. So by your club's policies or whatever, you might want to assign those roles to a vice president. Or combine those roles, I would say, so that automatically your vice president is your second vice president is your service chairperson or something along those lines, or your secretary is also your communication, your marketing chairperson. That's possible. It could be filled. I probably should have put, instead of filled by a vice president, maybe filled by another or by another elected officer. So in other words, you're going to double up on the roles. Am I making sense what I'm saying there?
Sure.
Okay. So yeah, we have to be a little creative when we get into our smaller clubs. So basically the board then should be reviewing all new business items that are sent, and they also shape policy. So they're kind of the ones who make the determination on keeping the club moving, other than a few things that the whole membership is supposed to vote on. But primarily the board of directors makes the decisions for the clubs. Definitely in terms of approving expenditures and arranging for an audit, that's really an important role. I know, again, a lot of our clubs are maybe a little bit, give a lot of leeway to the treasurer to do those expenditures, and that's understandable. Ideally, when you put your budget together, your budget gives those allowances and gives some range and latitude as to what can be spent, but you also want to be sure that you're keeping your board of directors aware of the expenditures that are being made. And then an audit at the end of the year, whether formally or informally done by a group of your board members, is an important aspect, just to make sure things are being done correctly. They should also approve, technically, and this is, I believe, in the Constitution bylaws, they should approve the financial institution that you're working with. And ideally, although it's a club expense, your treasurer should be bonded, and that's just like an insurance protection, just in case something happens, with funds or whatever. It's a protection for your club. So I encourage you to explore that or talk to your club about that if you're not sure what the status is of bonding for your club treasurer. Your club should have separate accounts for administrative money and activity money. our club has actually separate checks for that. Some clubs have a single account and keep 2 ledgers. I think the recommendation from LCI is to have actually two separate accounts to keep those monies separate. So, but the board's responsibility here is to make sure that monies are spent appropriately and taken from the appropriate pots of money, so to speak. Or expenditures are paid from the appropriate pots of money, and monies are deposited in the appropriate pots of money. Again, we mentioned this with the president before, but the board can modify or overrule or rescind an officer action. And then ultimately, when we're talking about the consensus, hopefully your board of directors will support the decisions that are made, that they make as a board. You can come out of that, might not be perfect at exactly the way every member wanted, but it's something they can live with and that they will support through that consensus building project or process. The last slide in this section is just something I pulled off of the Lions Club International website. This is a chart that, as you can see, shows the standard club structure, how they see it. It's basically a flow chart. We're going to talk a little bit more about that red circled area, which is called the Global Action Team, something that our clubs, we haven't really gotten down to the club level very much. We use it at the district level and certainly at the multiple district level, but it's not widely implemented at the club level. But this at least gives you an idea and shows you how things are tied together. And you can basically see that all lines connect to the president in one way or another. So I'd sent you a picture or a copy of this in your handouts, so you can use that as a reference, and you might use it as a guide or a model for and tailor it to your specific club and the way your club is structured. But this is sort of the structure that or this chart mirrors what is in the Constitution and bylaws. Okay. Take a break here for some questions and comments and take a sip of water.
Dennis, one comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
The vice president's duties. Real important to fill in for the president when he's not available, right?
Absolutely.
That wasn't mentioned.
Yeah, no, you're right. I didn't have that in there. But that is definitely the traditional. Can't be in attendance. So that's part of knowing what the responsibilities are of the president.
And in fact, I would interject that it doesn't hurt sometimes to give the vice president the opportunity to lead a meeting, even if the president is there. I've seen that done in my club, and I think it's helpful so that, normally under the course of a year, the president probably will not be available, but if not, it makes sense to just let them run a meeting or a segment of a meeting or something like that to, get their feet wet, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yep.
Yeah.
Good idea. Anybody else? Don't be shy.
Dennis, I only have one question, only because of being first vice president and secretary. Several times our president with last minute notice couldn't show up at a meeting. We've had trouble getting people to say, hey, does somebody want to take the minutes? I've had to run the meeting and take the minutes on 3 different occasions.
Oh my. Do you own a tape recorder?
I do, but I guess I found it kind of tough to do everything.
Yeah. I can totally appreciate that. That's unfortunate, I would say. Unfortunate that I couldn't get step up. Maybe that's you're not going to be in a situation where you're president and secretary, are you?
I hope not.
I hope not too.
I have a new assistant secretary stepping in next year, so hopefully, but she has a full-time job, so I hope not.
Yeah.
I would say
I don't know.
Yeah. what I do as cabinet secretary, most smartphones have an app you can get to record. And often I, record things, and then, I try to take notes, but having that recording as a backup helps. And maybe you could find somebody, that assistant might be able to transcribe that or whatever for you, so that, all the responsibilities don't fall on you.
Right.
But again, we can only do what we can do, so.
Does the app, does that usually in a big meeting with a big group, does it pick up everybody's comments and stuff?
Yeah, so far,
does.
it unfortunately picks up my side comments all the time, but.
Well, then you get to laugh
if I could
twice.
delete them, I'd be okay, yeah, but it's been quite, effective. And I'm sure there's a bunch of different ones, and the one I have, seems to work quite well. I can try to share that with you if I knew technology well enough to do that. So.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Yeah. And Patty, if you have an iPhone, it's the recording, it's included on probably in your tools, I think, or your,
like on my Android, my Samsung.
Well, that one I don't know.
Okay.
I'm an Apple person, so I can't.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll check under settings then.
I thought most smartphones had that feature built in as far as recording.
All right. Thanks.
Okay. Anybody else?
I have a question.
Yeah.
With this year, there's been a lot of changes. I was COVID president of our York Toastmasters this year. And so we met at the Lion, we had to eliminate our in-person meetings. Fortunately, we did a couple Lions meetings that I helped out with by doing Zoom. How other clubs dealt with is everybody back in person, or are they doing Zoom? Are they doing hybrids? How are they dealing with the technology side of the pandemic?
I can answer.
Go ahead.
Our club is doing a combination Zoom and in-person meetings, but we're in a big enough facility where we have like 18 members that attend. So we're spaced out. Everyone's vaccinated, but we're still masking. Doors are open. But we also have a gentleman in our club who sets up still our Zoom meetings. So the people that are at home, they can actually hear all of us at the meeting. So they said they've never had a problem. And they're participating, and it's back and forth, and it works really well. Yeah.
That's where we're going with Toastmasters, and I'm going to be the Zoom person for Toastmasters as Sergeant of Arms, but then President of Lions. And we have a person that, is pretty much capable and working on that. And I was just wondering if I can take that, and how can we help other clubs do the same thing?
How about with a show of hands, those of you who are on the meeting, how many of your clubs are meeting in person currently? Okay. And how many of you have done a fundraiser in the second half of the year here since January? How many of your clubs have done a fundraiser? Okay. All right. So yeah, I think, Lance, it seems like the clubs are starting to come out of hibernation, so to speak, and I think as people feel more comfortable being vaccinated, I'm really hopeful that this, your year as president of the clubs, things will be moving back at least somewhat towards normal. In our area, I know our big fundraisers, we have one in the middle of the summer in July at South Mountain Fair, and then we have the apple harvest in October, and both of those are scheduled to be happening. So yeah, let's hope that's the case.
It's kind of a double sword question, because we're tossing around Toastmasters. You really have to be in person. You can't speak.
Yeah.
And but it opens up some opportunities to have guests and speakers and to be able to have that option of having a hybrid meeting. And that's what I was wondering, how many other clubs are, use Zoom as a supplement to the meeting?
Yeah, Lance, I would, commend you to, doing that. I think is fantastic, because I think that, as you said, gives people opportunity to be there, even though, physically they can't. And again, I think it, really, in my opinion, probably something that we could take away from this experience. And if we can make that available, because again, depending on weather and nights and cold and darkness and driving long distances, I think having a hybrid where both is available, that would ensure what Dennis was saying, that everybody can be included. Everybody can be, be part of it, even though physically not there. Now, I know with my club, we did have some Zoom, we went Zoom completely. Then we had some that were in person and Zoom. But most lately, we've just gone to in-person meetings, because we have the luxury of having some churches and facilities that are large enough to accommodate that. But that being said, you're right that you can have a speaker from anywhere, like we did at the convention, come in and do a presentation, which is fantastic resources. So again, I commend you, and your club for doing that and supporting that. And again, I think that's something to take away and consider moving forward, if some of that, makes sense, to continue some of those aspects. So I've used up more than my time, Dennis, so I'll be quiet now.
Okay.
Everybody knows that won't happen, so, but.
I'll say one more thing. With Toastmasters, we finally reached a point where we said, if you want to be a speaker at our meeting, you will be in person. Other roles, I don't know if you know how Toastmasters function, but other roles like tabletop, they can be done on Zoom. You don't have to get out of your pajamas if you want to. But if you want to speak, you will be in person. So that's how we dealt with it there. But then on the other hand, we can have international speakers join us from anywhere in the world. And Toastmasters is international, just like Lions. So I think it has a place across all clubs if they so choose. But thank you. I'll stop.
And I will remind everybody that the Zoom license that we're using here, if your club wants to experiment or do Zoom, all you have to do is contact me, and I'll schedule a Zoom meeting for your club, as long as nobody else has claimed beforehand. I'll schedule it for a Zoom meeting. And we've even been in the case where we've had some zone meetings, and we had two meetings going on simultaneously because we put people in different rooms. So, if your club wants to do any Zoom related things and you want to avoid the expense of a Zoom license, just let me know and I'll do my best to help you out. All right, I'm going to go back to screen. Oh, Brian, are you saying something there? Yeah. Brian, you're muted if you're talking to us.
I had a question on the zone meetings. Where do you find out where those are held or when?
There are a couple of ways. We'll have our goal is to have those dates published in the district directory. The directory will be available in late July, probably at the latest. It'll be distributed at the first cabinet meeting. But you'll want to reach out to your zone chair also. Let me see here, Brian.
Galen.
Do you know who your zone chair is going to be, Brian?
I have no idea.
You're Mount Holly. Your zone chair.
It'll be Galen. Galen Burkholder.
Galen, yeah. From Mount Holly. So hopefully he'll get dates out to you ahead of time.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna go back to the screen share here quick. and we'll move on now. As far as planning for your year. So this is the time to really be laying your plans and some things that you want to try to do now here between now and January or July 1st. All right. Again, just a basic understanding of what motivates your members and what needs they have, and whatever you can do to kind of accommodate those needs and play into those things that will motivate your members is great. I sent you this club president and vice president ebook. This is a wonderful resource. It has links in it that hopefully work, but be a little bit patient with it because some of the links are linked to the old or to before the LCI revised their website. So, and I don't know if they have updated all of the links in this handbook, but it's a really good resource for you to look through and at least to know whether or not there is something available on the LCI website that can help you. If you have any trouble finding something on LCI website, let me know. I'll be happy to try to find it for you and work with you. But this is one of the attachments that I sent you. And again, I think it's a great resource because you can go in there electronically and you click on a link and it takes you right to the document or resource that you might need. We already talked about participating in district and multiple district. Well, we talked about zone level more so, but take that on to the district and multiple district events. And again, here, especially with your vice presidents who are going to be vice presidents this coming year, get out to a district convention, a district cabinet meeting, maybe go to a multiple district. That's Pennsylvania Lions. When I talk about the multiple district, 14, we're 14C as a district. There's 16 other districts in Pennsylvania. They're all start with 14 and letters ranging from A through U through W, but not every letter. We're actually going to be hosting one of the cabinet meetings this year, or council meetings, I'm sorry. We'll be hosting a council meeting in York in February. So that would be a great chance to go, and you can look for the information about that, but it's basically the first weekend in February when we will be hosting that meeting at the Wyndham Garden. And then you're participating now in club officer training. I would encourage you to get your other officers to do that. You also want to become familiar with the Constitution and bylaws. You heard Lion Ray talking about that they recently worked on their club's Constitution and bylaws and did a rewrite of that. Most of our clubs, I feel pretty confident saying, do not have our own written out Constitution bylaw. Rather, we use what's called the standard club Constitution and bylaws. And then we write policies around that related to the standard Constitution and bylaws. This document is revised every year at the International Convention. So probably in mid-July, you'll want to look at the LCI website and see, look for the newest version. I usually try to download that, and if I'm on my game, I'll try to send it out to all the presidents and secretaries so that they have an up-to-date copy. So occasionally there are changes that happen.
We're losing you.
Hello? Where's Dennis? Dennis Cope, where are you?
Yeah, we lost sound.
Earth to ground control. We can see your lips moving, but we cannot hear you, sir.
I can't see him.
I can see him, but I can't hear him.
Unmute, Dennis.
He's not muted. That's what's bad about it. I can see his thing. His symbol's not muted.
Oh, wow.
He just broke.
Nothing broke.
I had to laugh. I said earth to ground control, and I wouldn't see how many people laughed that would remember that.
Everybody hear me now?
There you are.
Hear you now.
Okay. All right. Well, let's hope that doesn't happen again.
Those cats.
Gremlins.
Who knows? Or it just could be my internet connection. Who knows? All right.
So you went over all the bonuses that you were giving out. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. All right. Back to the screen share. Okay. So again, I encourage everybody to read this. It's not the most interesting, but you'll find some things that surprise you, that you really didn't realize were the case for your clubs. So it's good to be familiar with that. And it's also a tool that you can use sometimes if you are having some kind of difficulty in your club. That's a great reference. I like to always go back to the original documents and not count on somebody said, well, this is what, whoa, you know, I like to check things out from the original source if I can. So start right after the election, and some things to be thinking about doing between now and July 1st again are, you know, don't step on your current president's toes, but check with your current president and see what, and run ideas of things you want to do by them and make sure they're okay with it. I would encourage you to meet with your incoming officers, preferably before your first regular club meeting, so that you guys can start to put some plans together and, you know, again, set that tone that we talked about earlier with the culture and the consensus building. Get your committee chairs appointed and your committee members signed. Talk with one of the predecessors who served as president, who you really have some respect for. You know, if you need some support, that's a great way with that. You know, past district governor George Hilsinger was a great help for me when I was district governor. Somebody I could call and say, hey, what do you think about this? And, you know, just to get some advice. I'm sure a past president will be ready to step in and help you as much as possible, but just do your best to be ready to hit the ground running on July 1st. One thing that I like to do is have a month by month to do kind of list. And ideally, if your club doesn't have something like this, if you can create it and pass it on to the next president, it's a great resource, because there are some things that happen every year. Dennis, I'm working on that for you, I'm hoping I have that together for you. You know, just a tickler kind of thing that, okay, in August, you're gonna have a cabinet meeting, you know, and, you know, what months are you gonna have the cabinet meetings? When are you gonna have your zone meetings? You know, when's the zone social? Those kinds of things. Come up with an agenda template for your meetings. And I'm going to share something with you a little later on with that. A calendar of events for your club is a great thing to have, and at least put it together. It can be revised, of course, but if you have that and you can keep sending that out and updating it with your members, that keeps them informed for when all your key dates are for your club events. I would really encourage you to set goals and develop action plans to achieve those goals with your club. Maybe they relate around membership. Yes, every one of our clubs would like to have more new members, but if you just say we want new members, that's not going to do anything. What's the plan? What's the action? You know, what's the goal? How many new members do you want to attract this year? And what are you going to do to get those new members? You know, try to come up with plans. And, you know, action planning could be a whole seminar in itself. All right, so those were just a few ideas. Any comments or questions there? Okay, we'll keep moving. that's good because we're down to what, 25 minutes. As far as leadership expectations, I'm going to break this down into things related to meetings, managing your committees, conducting officer elections, communications within the clubs. So in terms of meetings, as president, you're the one who does the call for the meetings, whether it's a club meeting, the board meeting, special meetings, as we talked about before. That's where this calendar of events comes in. You should be preparing an agenda for your meeting, or it's highly recommended that you do that in conjunction with the secretary. I know in some clubs, they rely heavily on the secretary to prepare that, but I would encourage you to take an active role in doing that. Obviously, you preside over your meetings, so I would encourage you also to review the minutes of prior to the distribution of them. So when your secretary prepares the minutes, to have a second set of eyes on those minutes and go over them before they go out to the general membership, just to make sure you catch any errors or do your best to catch any errors like that. Let's talk about the agenda for a minute. Why is this an agenda so why is it worth the bother? And it can be kind of a headache, but I think it's really important. As I say here, it's a blueprint for your meeting so you can run your meetings efficiently. Your meetings are going to be more productive and orderly if people know what you want to accomplish and what's going to be on. People can be prepared, especially if you get your agenda out ahead of time. It helps keep members informed because you can put additional information on that agenda. And it helps you keep track of what issues are before the club, and so things don't get overlooked as easily. When you prepare your agenda, again, you want to work with your secretary closely, but you also might want to involve your vice presidents and your committee chairs, know which ones need to report on different things. I like to keep going back to the past meeting minutes so that I know if there was something that was tabled that I need to bring back to the next meeting under old business. Maybe a new business item was brought up, that goes over to the old business. It helps me remember things that were discussed that we need to bring back to the table. I create this is my process. I do kind of a detailed version for myself that has some notes on, points I want to make or whatever. And then I save that version and I save a second version and cut out some of just my extraneous notes, which is sort of a basic version that I send out to the club members. So that helps me. Again, that's just kind of a process thing that works for me. And then I don't lose track of some of the thoughts I had while I was creating the agenda, but it's not stuff that the whole membership necessarily needs to have. So again, if you can send out that basic version prior to the meeting, that's great. By email, people can print it out and then you don't have to make copies and bring them to the meeting, and it saves you some paper and printer ink. But you might want to have a few copies available at the meeting, especially if you have members who don't have access to email. A couple of agenda samples here. If you're going to have a program at your meeting, like you have a speaker for the meeting, I see that as a little bit different format than if you're just in a business meeting. A program meeting, you want your speaker to be the focus of the meeting and be sort of the center of attention, whether that's a program or the district governor visit or something like that. But if you're going to have somebody takes the time to prepare a program for your club members, you want to give them that respect. So here's just a possibility. You do your call to order, whatever your opening exercises are. You want to introduce your guests. If you're going to have a meal, then probably have the meal next. Again, your club has its own tradition. Some of you have your meal before you do any of this stuff because not all of your members come in for the meal. That's perfectly fine if that's the case. Then after the meal, introduce your speaker and have your program. And then after that, just try to keep things very limited. You know, do your basic secretary and treasurer reports, just so you can approve the minutes, and you can file your treasurer's report for audit, and people are up to date. Have any announcements that need to be made, and then adjourn your meeting for the basic membership. If you have some decisions that need to be made by the board, they can stay after, or any members who are interested can stay, and you can have your board meeting after that. Again, you don't want your meetings to go on for 2.5 hours. That just, nobody's really a fan of that. Yeah. An hour and a half meeting is plenty for everybody. Now, if you get to a meeting night that you don't have a program, maybe you just want to use that as a business meeting, a general membership business meeting, then you can change things up a little bit. Yeah, you're going to do your opening exercise and call to order. You might have some guests to introduce. This would be a chance to, you can make some remarks, or your vice presidents, if they have them. You do your secretary and treasurer. And now you have time to do some chairperson and coordinator reports. Again, in the previous agenda, when I said board meeting at the end, you can use this same agenda for them from the fourth bullet down. All right. You want to go over old business and introduce any new business to the club, and then you can do your adjournment. So that's kind of a very basic format. This is a sample of our club's agenda for the last meeting that we had. You can see I have a little bit more detail in here. We did not have a program, so this was more or less a business meeting. We did our election right up at the front as people were coming in, so we reported the election results. You can see the approval of the minutes, those things. The Rabbit Show was a fundraiser that we had. We had our restaurant open, so we had a report with that, followed by the treasurer's report. And then I divide up like service projects. And so these are the service projects that we were working on right now. And then we go into our fundraising projects that we have coming up, and we have reports on those. Again, this is the way I structured it. I thought it was kind of clean. I actually made up a template that under service projects and fundraising projects listed all the projects that we do. And then that was kind of my master agenda. And as I go from meeting to meeting, I can cut and paste things, or cut out things that I don't know. If I know when we don't have if one of the service projects is passed, like we were doing a food drive, that's over. So I don't have to list that on the meeting by meeting agenda, but I have it as a list, especially those signature service projects and fundraising projects. And then the old business, the new business. Now, in a number of those indented things, I had additional notes on my agenda, but I didn't include them on the one that went out to the members. This is what went out to the members.
The ones on your agenda include the bad jokes?
Yes. They include the bad jokes. Yep. Very much so. I do those in Marty's honor. All right. So again, if you need any samples there, just feel free to contact me. Just real quick with parliamentary procedure, that's what do I want to say? That's the way most of our meetings are run. We basically follow Robert's Rules of Order, although nobody really knows them very well. But when I send you this slideshow, if you click there on Robert's Rules of Orders, it should take you to a website where you can order Robert's Rules of Order. And I'm sure that would be a lot of fun to read. No, not at all. But just knowing the basics of going through motions, having some debate whether to table, we send, there are some very what do I want to say, summarized versions of things that you can get, just so that you can know how to run the meeting following those rules. And I do think it is important though to work through motions and to document those motions. But to me, or one idea that I saw was to keep a log of the motions that are made and approved at the meetings, and just have those all in a separate log, which is kind of a nice reference to go back, and you can kind of see a running history of what actions your club and your board have approved. So just a thought there for something you might want to do. But formalize your club's actions through motions and votes. That way you can document that you had approval and authorization to do different things you wanted to do. Another suggestion is for your meetings is just to create a binder and carry that with you to the meetings, that has all of this meeting's agenda, but also the previous ones, the minutes of your previous meetings. So you have those there as reference if you need to go back to them. You have your officers and committee list for reference, your calendar of events, constitution and bylaws. That'll take a little paper to print out, but again, you might need that for some reason for a reference at a meeting, as well as any of your club's, your own local policies for that. And again, maybe you can find a basic version or some things from Robert's Rules of Order that you want. Keep your district directory with you also. It's a great resource for dates, and that's a great resource. So that's just something, if you have it with you all the time at your meetings, then you're prepared and you don't have to fumble around trying to, or remembering to get information to somebody later. Questions on that aspect? Okay, let's talk about committees for a second. As we said, you appoint your committee chairs and committee members. I would suggest you work with the vice presidents on that and maybe assign vice presidents to oversee some of those committees. You want to, whoops, I'm sorry. Let's try that again. You want to match your members' interests, skills, and knowledge to the committees that you assign them to. That's where knowing your members is important, and that's why it's important to be a member of the club for more than a year, so that you know those members for the committees. Again, some of your clubs have very formal committee structures. Some don't have any committee structures. Some of you are somewhere in between there. You do a lot of stuff based on tradition. The more you can kind of get down and formalize, the easier it is to have some consistency with those kinds of things. Try to keep bringing new ideas in to your committees, or new people into those committees. Make sure that your newer members get assigned to committees so that they have some say and some involvement and bring them. And at the same time, you need to encourage the people who have done those things for a while to be open to those new ideas and willing to try them. Develop or provide the leaders of the committees with the job description for what that committee is supposed to do. Encourage them to keep records of what they're doing, and then expect that they are going to report at the meetings. Let them know that they're going to have an opportunity when that project or that fundraiser is coming up. They should be prepared to provide an update, and then afterwards a report on what happened. Try just keeping communication with them. If you as president can attend a meeting of the committee, that's good. Keeps you in the loop, keeps you aware of their progress. And it also helps keep the committee focused on what they're doing. So, you may need to, this is where the prodding comes in, as far as the management and the motivation. You may need to do some follow-up to make sure the committees are doing their work. In the Constitution and bylaws, there are some standing committees that are supposed to be in there. I mentioned the Global Action Team before, which is chaired by the club president. This structure is probably something that we as a district ought to do a seminar on just by itself, so people want better understand what the Global Action Team is. This is a structure that LCI implemented probably 3 years ago, 4 years ago, maybe. I think it was the year I was governor that they transferred to this. It's basically the interrelationship between your service, leadership, and membership aspects. And those three areas working together to support each other. So that comes under that title, Global Action Team. And it's at all levels of Lions right now, but it hasn't been really fully embraced by clubs, by too many clubs. So it's something I think we could work on. You're supposed to have a Constitution and Bylaws Committee, and their main responsibility is just to make sure that your club policies or whatever are in line with the Constitution and bylaws, the standard club Constitution and bylaws. So you don't want to be outside of that. Your Finance Committee is chaired by your club treasurer, and they, of course, should be coming up with a budget, presenting a budget for approval, and then they should also make sure that some sort of audit is taken care of. Your Membership Committee should be the point people behind a recruitment effort, but not just recruitment, also member satisfaction and orientation for new members. Marketing communications, boy, I don't know too many of our clubs that actually have a marketing and communications committee. But if you've got somebody who's kind of tech savvy and good with social media, that would be a great person to have on this committee so that you can utilize those tools. But under that, if you're under that category, if you have a website, try to keep it up to date, utilize Facebook if you can to get the message out of things that are going on with your club. They are effective tools and people do pay attention to them. An information technology committee, that's in the Constitution and bylaws, believe it or not. And again, I don't know if we have too many of those. Those last two could probably run together somewhat. And then a leadership committee, and that's supposed to be chaired by the first vice president. And I think the idea there is that the first vice president would be using that to identify people to put in leadership roles. And then, of course, at the club level, at each of your club levels, each of your clubs has their own specific ones. And I'm just giving you examples here from my club, Lawrenceville Lions Club. We have a peace poster committee, road cleanup, fruit baskets, decorations, vision screening, Leo Club. These are all service projects we're involved with. Our main fundraisers come through the restaurant that we operate. Plus, we have a wine bingo twice a year. What I kind of call club administration are things like charter night or holiday dinner, or special event kinds of things. So those are our ongoing ones that we do every year, but we also might have a special committee needed for just one-time thing. Like every 6 years, we host the zone social, so we need a committee for that. You need to the audit gets done every year. That could probably be under the club administration one, but maybe your club wants to do some kind of social outing. The membership committee wants to do that as like a membership satisfaction. So you might need a committee to plan a bus trip or going to a concert or having some kind of a club picnic, family picnic, something like that. Special service project that comes up, it's not something that you're planning to do all the time. It's something that, special need comes up and you want to address that in some way. Nominating, that's probably going to come under your club administration also. I probably ought to put both audit and nominating under the club administration. We're going to talk about nominating in just a second here. I know I'm rushing, but I also know I'm down to 4 minutes. So questions or comments on committees? And by the way, I'll obviously go over a little bit, or I'm going to go over. So if anybody has to log off right at 8:30, no offense will be taken. Okay.
Dennis, I don't know if you're going to include at the end, a lot of resources, but I know Line University, I would suggest if people haven't taken courses on Line University, they have all kinds of specialty type lessons about effective meetings, procedures, all that type, of stuff that is very helpful. And often those lessons include handouts and links to a lot of good information. So again, there's plenty of resources out there to supplement and really help. because again, a lot of us, you know, depending on what our background is, some of this stuff is new and not something that we're, you know, practiced in.
Yeah. At the end, yeah, the last section of the slideshow goes through that. That's one of the resources, and it goes through some step-by-step to access Lions Lions University. So that'll be in there. Okay, officer elections, one of your responsibilities. By the Constitution bylaws, you want to comply with what's in there, and it's your responsibility as president to make sure that those guidelines are complied with. So you can either oversee that process yourself, or you can delegate that responsibility to make sure that the election gets done. But it just has to be an open process and meet the deadlines. There's more information, specifics in the Constitution and bylaws to help you prepare for that. But in general, first step is to appoint a nominating committee, which is what you should do. You should do that. I'm going to recommend by January at the latest. You know, perhaps your club has that as one of their standing administrative committees, and that's done when you do your regular committee assignments. But make sure that you have a committee in place by the end of January, and that committee's responsibility is to recruit the slate of candidates for each of the elected officers offices of your club, your directors and officers. All right. So the nominating committee should then be prepared to report what they've done, their work at the nominating meeting. And the nominating meeting is supposed to be scheduled sometime in March. So look at your calendar. You know, if your club meets only once a month, then the March meeting is when the nominating committee should report the slate of candidates that they have come up with. You are supposed to make sure that you have at least 14 days, you announce that meeting at least 14 days in advance. So if you have that on your calendar and you know you've got only one meeting in March, you know now then that that's going to be your nominating meeting. So if it's on your agenda and you have it labeled as nominating meeting, you've met your obligation. At that meeting, the committee will report who they've gotten as candidates. You should give an opportunity for additional nominations to be made from the floor, which I'm sure you'll get a ton of because, you know, everybody's dying to hold an office in your club. And then once the nominations have been made from, and all the people have been nominated from the floor, you should finalize.
Lost you.
We lost you.
Ground control to Major Tom.
We lost you.
Okay. Let me see here. I'll do what I did last time. All right. Am I back?
Yes.
I don't know. It might be a buffering issue or something like that when I'm in screen share for too long. All right. Let's go back. Let's hope we can get through the rest of it here without a problem. Okay. So, okay, we were talking about that. Okay, nominations from the floor, right? And then, have a motion to close your nominations, and then that becomes the approved slate of candidates for your officers. And the final step then is to conduct the election, and that needs to be in April. Again, that meeting needs to be announced, as well as publishing the slate of candidates 14 days prior to the election. So yeah, you have the names, and then no additional nominations. That's why you close the nominations in March. No additional nominations. If there are if there are positions for which there are no candidates, then there's another process for that that can be done after that, either a separate election or I would have to double check that, but I think it's there can be an appointment in some cases there. So don't hold me to that. I would have to double check that. Okay, and then this is something that I know a lot of our clubs don't do because they've got one candidate per office or whatever, but technically the bylaws say you're supposed to have a secret ballot, written ballot, and that is recommended so that if in any way the results can't be contested necessarily. You know, the ballots are counted, everybody wrote, had a chance to do it, and then the ballots are destroyed though after the election. All right, again, there's more details in the Constitution and bylaws for that. Questions about elections? Okay. Oh my gosh, I thought I had everything. Communication, I thought we were down to the next one. Just real quick here. You know, we've got all kinds of ways to communicate, you know, that are available to us. So there's no reason for people not knowing what's going on, both within our clubs and externally. I do encourage you to use press releases to try to get out to your local newspapers. As long as you find the right email address, you can have some success with that, even if it's like your local merchandiser. Yeah, don't necessarily take all this on yourself, but use your committee chairs and other officers, but try to utilize as many means of communication as you can to keep information going. You know, for your club members, you want to make sure they know what the activities are, when the meetings are, when there's meetings going on outside of your club, the zone meetings, the multiple district meetings, things like the international convention. Outside of your club, try to delegate that. So again, it's not all your responsibility, but make sure it's clear who's supposed to do what communication. So like if thank you notes are supposed to be sent to speakers, is that the secretary who does that? Or who, you know, how do you have that structured? Those kinds of things. Make sure that that's assigned to people who should do that. But try to let people know that you should be kept informed of whatever correspondence is going out on behalf of the club, just so that you're not blindsided by somebody getting a note and calling you up and you don't know what they're talking about. We talked about this with the marketing communications, that most of our clubs don't have it, but again, it's a real asset if you can have a strong chairperson there, and somebody who's knowledgeable with the social media tools. Press releases and pictures to local newspapers. We've been fairly lucky in our area, the Gettysburg Times. As long as we send it to the right email address, it usually gets in sometime within the next month. There's a couple other Adams County clubs here. I don't know if they've had as much success or not. I know Gettysburg gets their student of the month in most months, and I know that's one I see a lot. Excuse me. So, and again, keep the club's website up to date. That's really going quick through that. So, anybody want to comment or have questions on that? By the way, the Phillies won today. If anybody was curious. 4 in a row. Hooray. Okay. So then this last section is just a run through of different resources. And again, the main ones that I'm putting on here, this is, when you get this will be linked. You can click on here and it'll go to the Lions International website. And there, under that website, there are resources for members. There's a resource center, and there's club administration. Well, I'm sorry, I kind of lost my train here. The Lions Club International Resource Center is one of the resources that you can go to. And here is how you get to it. Just follow these steps. Go to this link and then look for this, then look for this, whoops, and then look for that. So here's what you'll see, okay? This is the homepage for the Lions International. And when you click there, you know, you should be able to see where it has the resources for members. I have that circled. So you click on that, and that takes you to this page. And then you look for the resource center, which I have circled in red there. And then when you click on that, it goes to this. And this resource center, you can see there are different categories of resources that you can look at. And there's just, you can really get lost in looking at a whole lot of things there as far as the resource center for Lions Club International. Okay. Club administration is what you might be most interested in for right now. And that'll take you to this page of 49 resources for your club that you can peruse at your convenience. Okay, so that's the Lions Resource Center. Then there's the Lions Learning Center. As club president, you're going to be introduced to what you already have a MyLion account, but you may not know that you may not have set it up yet. I would encourage you to do that. You basically have to know your membership number. So you basically will be, when you get this PowerPoint, you can click on MyLion. And then if you aren't signed up yet or registered, you'll have to do that. And then you'll go to Learn, and then you'll go to the Lions Learning Center and hit Go. So here's what that looks like. All right, this is the welcome page. Actually, this is changed a little bit just within, I think, like the last month. It looks a little bit different, but basically it's a sign-in page. So you'll just sign in, but if you haven't ever signed into MyLion, then you have to register first. Once you are signed in, you click on sign in, and this is what the page looks like. It has these different tabs across the top. MyLion. MyLCI is where you can go and get information just about your club members. You'll be able to see a bunch of information. This is where your secretary goes to put new members in and to update addresses and that type of thing. Insights provides all kinds of data. Learn is where you're going to go, though, for the Lions Learning Center. So right there, that Learn, that's what will take you to some courses. When you click on Learn, okay, you will, this is what will come up. And then you will want to click on Lions Learning Center Go. And when you go there, then you will come to here. And right now, this shows that Club President Learning Path. That's because I started through that, right? You can see over in the light, you can do the click on the content library, and that will give you all the courses that are offered in this Lions Learning Center. And you can look for whatever your heart desires, but you probably want to focus on the club president information now. So that content library, and right there is what it looks like. There's some courses for first governors, but also the club president. Yeah, club president. That's what you'll click on, and that'll start you through like a 3-session. I believe it's a 3-session seminar on club presidents, and I took some of my information for this presentation from that. And then finally, the Lions University is sponsored by the USA Canada Lions Leadership Forum, which is related to Lions, but it is not run by the Lions Club International. It's its own organization. They hold a forum every year, and it is really one of the best learning experiences and most motivational things you can go to. This year it's in Des Moines, Iowa. In a couple of years, it's going to come back to, it was supposed to be in Louisville, Kentucky last September, but COVID canceled that. So it'll be coming back to Louisville, Kentucky in a few years. They assigned it back there. And I would encourage you to go to one of those. You will have a whole bunch of different workshops you can go to. It's just a great chance to be around enthusiastic Lions. if you click on this link up here, Lions University, this is what comes up. Again, you have to establish an account with this. So you're gonna have to log in or register. You see there at the green, I have my circles in green on this one, okay? So, and you can see that there's bachelor's degree, master's degree, doctorate. You got to start with your bachelor's degree to move on to the other. So you can earn these quasi degrees within Lions University. So when you click on bachelor's, then it comes up and you have a bunch of different course offerings here that come up. Okay, bachelor's, leading your Lions Club. And these are the courses then that are all available to that. And down there at 121, you can see is club president. But this is a great place to refer all your club officers to. The 101 through 110 are just kind of general leadership types of things. There are things that Marty was talking about as far as club governance, leading meetings. So if you want to delve into any of those topics in greater detail, it's a great place to do it. This is all free. So a lot of good training. And then, like I said, 121 will give you specific information about your role as the president. All right. So, conflict resolution, if you click on that, comes up, gives you a definition of the course, what's covered. And most of these are not real tough. There's a brief test at the end of them. Marty, I don't know if you want to say anything about that, but it's how you earn your degree, by answering some questions, correct?
Yes, I mean, and the quizzes are, I mean, they vary but most of the time it's a video that's usually about an hour. You watch that. Again, many of them come with handouts. So, you can take the quiz a few times if you don't succeed. But again, it's you can move to earn the degrees if you want, or you can just take the classes, as you decide. But again, lots of useful information, lots of useful handout. Again, the tail twisting seminar that I'll be putting on, a lot of the material came from a class they have there. So it's good stuff. So,
and if you earn a degree, you can go to the USA Canada Forum and receive your degree from the international president and shake hands with the international president. So nice little bonus for that. So I do thank you so much for your attention. And I know I did a lot of talking, probably way too much talking. And I'm more than happy to stick around and answer questions and chat and whatever. I know it's probably longer than a lot of you wanted to hang out, but thank you so much for coming in. I hope you got something out of it. So feel free to just open your mic and talk and comment, and you want to react. And again, no offense taken for anybody who needs to drop off, or if you've had enough.
No. I have a quick question.
Sure, Patty, go ahead.
My question is, I'm wondering if you were going to offer one of these seminars for the treasurers.
We talked about that actually, and I think what we decided is that if your treasurer wants some background in training, our district treasurer will set up an appointment to go over things individually with them. Most of the treasurers, they're kind of like secretary. We don't have a lot of new ones coming on in any given year. And so the district treasurer felt it would be more effective to do that kind of like on a one-on-one basis.
Okay, because we do have a new treasurer coming on. Okay. And who is the district treasurer?
Phil Ofen from New Freedom. He's more than willing to meet with clubs. And again, I guess if there's a few new treasurers, I'm sure he will put something on for them together if you approach him.
Okay.
But we did discuss it when we were looking at the seminars, and he was more than willing to do it, but past history has been that there just has not been the demand you know, the numbers of people interested in that. So
Okay.
he's more than willing, and he's done an excellent job. He does an excellent job. So
Patty, I don't know if your club got a directory or not. Terry Holman definitely has one.
Okay.
I'm sure if you want to contact him. By the way, folks, Patty, I assume that you're going to be the first president of the Jacobus Lioness Lions Club.
I'm one of the co-presidents.
Oh,
There's two of us.
You're going to be co-president. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Great. Great.
Yes.
Jacobus Lioness Club is one of I guess two lioness clubs that's going to convert, or are you the only one that's going to convert to a Lions Club?
I haven't heard of another one, unless you do know one.
Nah, I kind of think you're the only one. So congratulations, though. We're really happy that's going to happen.
Yeah, we're working through it. Our paperwork's just about done. Yes.
Good. Good.
Thank you for this.
Sure.
Thank you for your time.
No problem. Anybody else?
I just want to thank you for this. It was very detailed.
Yeah, you're welcome. Welcome. And anytime you have questions, feel free to shoot me an email anytime or whatever. I'll be happy to help you in any way I can.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
Okay. Night, everybody.
Good night.
Night.
Night.